Today's headlines. Good news as dramatic contract U-turn. Slot sack decision looming. Carragher blasts players weak and embarrassing. Slot admits Liverpool crumbled. £85 million transfer doubts emerge. Watkins delivers brutal truth. Robertson's honest reaction. Teammates feel sorry for struggling star. Welcome back to LFC Echo Daily. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, follow for daily Liverpool updates, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Good news as dramatic contract U-turn will see Liverpool forwards stay. Liverpool will be heading into next season with great uncertainty over their forward line. Alexander Isak will be the only senior fit option going into the season, and his reliability hasn't always been the best.
The Swede, 26, has suffered a severely injury-hit first season since his £125 million transfer from Newcastle, including a broken leg. He remains on the sidelines, and the club will be desperate to ensure he has enough cover around him next term. Hugo Ekitike was signed from Eintracht Frankfurt for £69 million last summer. The Frenchman has hit 17 goals in all competitions across his debut season, but his campaign is at an end. The 23-year-old ruptured his Achilles against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League and isn't expected to play again for up to a year. Getting the right kind of no-9 to deputise in the meantime will be crucial, and all the indications are that the sporting director Richard Hughes won't spend big on a forward. Therefore, promoting a young talent who is ready from the youth and underage ranks would appear to be an ideal solution. New deal for Figueroa. Up until very recently, it looked impossible for Figueroa to fulfill that duty. The 19-year-old has recently returned from injury, but has been in sparkling form for Rob Page's Premier League 2 side this season. Liverpool were worried about Figueroa's future, with his current contract expiring in summer 2026. The Honduran was linked with a move in the January window, with Porto and PSV both thought to be keen. It looked as though Figueroa was going to run down his deal in order to have his pick of clubs in the summer window. But now a dramatic U-turn appears to have taken place. Despite signing with Federico Pastorello's high-profile P&P Sport Management Agency in anticipation of a move, it now looks as though Figueroa will stay. Kyrol Figueroa decides his future. According to a new report in the Liverpool Echo, the sharpshooter is set to agree a new contract and pledge his future to his boyhood club. The 19-year-old is out of contract at the end of this season, with the likes of Porto and PSV Eindhoven being linked with an interest earlier this year, the report reads. However, the EHO understands it is expected the player will sign a new deal to extend his commitment to the Reds, although the agreement has not yet been finalized. It's been a big week for Figueroa, who pledged his international allegiance to Honduras. A former USA U20 international, he has now made the switch to represent the land of his birth. Mena Figueroa is an integral figure in Honduran football history, and now his son will follow in his illustrious footsteps. Figueroa has got a rare goal-scoring instinct, and this new contract may be a sign he will be integrated into the first-team squad on a more regular basis next term. In another news, Liverpool reach Arne Slot sacky decision after pressure became intolerable. Liverpool owners FSG are prepared to bury their heads in the sand and pretend everything is fine after deciding against sacking lame duck manager Arne Slot. Liverpool's almost weekly capitulation came earlier than usual this weekend after the Premier League moved their clash with Aston Villa to Friday night to give their opponents more time to prepare for a European final. European finals are what Liverpool used to compete in, but they are and will continue to be a distant memory with Slot at the helm. The Reds were outthought, outfought, and out-everything against Aston Villa. Virgil van Dijk and Rio Ngumoha, the oldest and youngest players in Liverpool's team, were the only players to emerge with credit. Those in the middle who are allegedly in their prime, the less said the better. Liverpool's attempts to limp into next year's Champions League could now go down to the final day. Bournemouth and Brighton both remain in with a shout of overhauling the Reds and snatching 5th spot. Clearly Liverpool are a team on an almost vertical decline under Slot. The fans know it, as do the reporters who cover Liverpool on a week-to-week basis. Taking to X, after the latest 90 minutes of pain, the Mail's Merseyside correspondent Lewis Steele wrote, Arne Slot had credit in the bank at the start of this torrid run, well over half a year ago by the way, and rightly so after last season. But that has gone bust now. He has shown absolutely nothing in that period to show he is the man to lead this team forward. The consensus was similar from the Telegraph's Dominic King, who wrote, "If Liverpool qualify for the Champions League next season, they are the luckiest team in the division." Two teams heading in completely different directions here. The emptying of the away end, the diehards, said it all. The pressure is reaching intolerable levels. Unfortunately, the only ones who can't see this omnishambles for what it is are the ones making the decisions. Liverpool won't sack Arne Slot. Prior to the Villa defeat, reporter Ben Jacobs brought news of owners FSG believing there are three mitigating factors behind Liverpool's struggles: Mohamed Salah's decline, Diogo Jota's tragic passing, and too many changes to the starting 11 last summer. Accordingly, the hierarchy led by Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes have elected to stick with Slot, come what may. Slot is also aware he's safe and will be given next season to turn this sinking ship around. Speaking ahead of the Villa game, Slot said, "I have every reason to believe that I am the Liverpool manager next season. First of all, I am contracted to this club, and second of all, from all the talks we are having." The Dutchman then dropped a crystal clear hint. He's staying when noting he's already been heavily involved in Liverpool's planning for the summer window and next season. He continued, "Plans have been made and talks have been ongoing between the club and new players, and I am involved in that if that is what you want to know. How far will Liverpool fall under Slot? We'll find out next season." In another news, Carragher blasts two Liverpool stars in Aston Villa defeat weak. Embarrassing. Alexis Mac Allister was among two Liverpool players to receive criticism from Jamie Carragher during the dire 4-2 away defeat to Aston Villa on Friday. Villa handed Liverpool their 12th Premier League defeat of the season as Ollie Watkins tore the Reds' defence to shreds. Liverpool have now conceded 77 goals in all competitions this term, their worst defensive record since the 1992-93 campaign. While Villa booked their place in next season's Champions League, Liverpool's shambolic performance saw them delay their own qualification until the last day. Arne Slot's side currently sit in 5th, which would be enough to make the Champions League. But Bournemouth are 4 points behind and have a game in hand, putting Liverpool under serious pressure. 6th place could still get Champions League football if Villa win the Europa League, though Liverpool do not want to let it go down to chance. Carragher was on co-commentary for Sky Sports, and it is fair to say he was horrified by what he saw at Villa Park. Even before half-time, Carragher said, "You're just watching a very ordinary team. I'm not sure what they excel at all, Liverpool." Mac Allister was the Liverpool player who infuriated Carragher the most. The midfielder clashed with Ezri Konsa in the 71st minute, pushing his opponent before Konsa pushed back. Konsa grabbed Mac Allister's shirt and pushed it up towards his face, which saw the Argentine fall to the floor, inexplicably holding his face. Carragher reacted by saying, "Honest to God. He goes down every game with something on his ankle. Get up. How embarrassing is that? What I don't get is, every player up and down the country knows we're going to look at the replays. We all know he hasn't done what you're trying to make out he's done." Konate was also in the firing line. Villa fans sought a red card for Konate in the second half as he collided with Watkins while operating as Liverpool's last man. It was never going to be a red card, though Carragher was not impressed by the centre-back's positioning. "Konate is always the wrong side of Watkins," he said. "The reason he gets in these situations is he's always in the wrong position. Liverpool really average, Carragher." The former Liverpool defender added that Liverpool were weak all over the pitch, particularly in midfield. He said Villa ripped Liverpool apart, and that their 77 goals conceded is a shocking number. "They don't excel at anything. They're a really average team," he said. "I can't believe they're 5th in the Premier League." There are growing calls for Liverpool to sack Slot, as he has lost large sections of the fan base, while the players are struggling to enact his tactical demands. Liverpool have reached a decision on whether they will axe the Dutchman this summer. In another news, Arne Slot admits Liverpool crumbled as under-fire boss sends message to players. Arne Slot conceded that Liverpool fell apart after going behind at Aston Villa as their defensive flaws were exposed once again, leaving their Champions League spot in doubt. Arne Slot admitted that his Liverpool side crumbled after conceding a second goal at Aston Villa, and it was on the players to show we deserve the fans' support ahead of the final day. The Reds were well beaten on Friday night as their top 5 rivals tore them apart, scoring 3 times in the second half to book their own spot in next season's Champions League with a 4-2 win. Slot's side still need to ensure they themselves are playing at Europe's top table next term. The Dutchman claimed this week that he believes he will be in charge beyond the current campaign as questions continue to be asked of his position. Slot has endured numerous difficulties in his second season at Anfield, experiencing a huge climb down from his debut year. Liverpool looked devoid of ideas in the final third. Rio Ngumoha, a rare bright spark, and defensively were continually opened up by Villa. Slot has looked lost for answers for months and was left to pick up the pieces once again. He said, "We had that control for large parts of the game, but not after the 2-1, which is why they scored the third. That was a part of the game where we struggled with their pace and intensity. We have conceded far too many, but we also didn't score enough goals. Although 2 away at Villa Park is not bad. If you told me before the game we'd score 2, I'd say we'd be close to a good result, but we've conceded 4 and 3 of them from set pieces." When the players' mentality was questioned, Slot responded, "Overall, I don't think the players deserved what you're saying. They were fully in the game, able to maybe to get a result. But after 2-1, we crumbled, we struggled. We did not give up, but we struggled to control their pace, intensity, and control. Liverpool could still have their Champions League spot in doubt come the final day." And Slot said, "The only thing we can do now is make a good week, be as well prepared as we can. It is a long week. As always, we're hoping our fans will be fully behind us. You saw tonight, as we've experienced so many times at Anfield, how important is it to play when you're all together. But we need to show that we deserve that support." Another poor night means that Liverpool have now conceded more than 50 goals in a 38-game Premier League campaign for the first time ever. Their tally currently sitting at 52, with 1 game of the season left. Slot has somewhat steadied the ship following their blip back in the autumn, which saw them tumble out of title contention and put their top 5 spot in doubt. That is yet to be secured, and there have been calls for the ex-Feyenoord boss to be moved on, despite delivering the league less than 12 months ago. Asked about his future, he added, "It's not about me, it's about us being disappointed with the result. I spoke yesterday on it, and that's enough. Our focus is on the Brentford game and making sure we earn the support of the fans by starting the game aggressive and well. The culmination of the fan support and a good performance will lead us to what we want to achieve, and that is qualifying for the Champions League." Jamie Carragher commented that Liverpool look like a really average team and called out the individuals on the pitch as he claimed they have far too many weak players. In another news, Liverpool news, Arne Slot eyes swoop for winger as major doubts emerge over £85 million transfer. The latest Liverpool news sees the club look toward the summer transfer window, with incomings, outgoings expected. Arne Slot looks set to lead Liverpool into the summer and beyond, with major surgery required on his underperforming squad. The reigning Premier League champions have been a huge disappointment this year, despite being back to the tune of £450 million last summer. It's been hard to pinpoint just where the Reds' struggles are coming from. One point of contention is that Luis Diaz, who left for Bayern Munich last summer, has not been suitably replaced. The Reds are now set to lose club legends Mohamed Salah and Andy Robertson at the end of the season. Robertson and Salah's impending exit, coupled with the ongoing quest to replace Diaz and, not to mention the club's need to address their midfield and fullback issues, could mean a huge summer lies in wait for Slot and Liverpool. Today's news sees an in-demand striker linked with a switch to Liverpool, while the club have reportedly cooled on a long-term target. Reds eye £75 forward. RB Leipzig attacker Antonio Nusa is reportedly a target for Liverpool this summer. Nusa may be somewhat of an unknown for the Anfield faithful, but the 21-year-old joined Leipzig in 2024 and has 5 goals and 4 assists in 34 appearances this season. The I-Paper claims that the Reds, while holding interest in other targets, have their sights on Nusa. The report says they are prepared to commit up to £75 million to sign RB Leipzig's Yan Diomande, with Bradley Barcola of Paris Saint-Germain another possible target. Antonio Nusa, who primarily plays on the left, is another on Liverpool's radar. Predominantly a left winger, the Norwegian star can play across the front three and has even played in the number 10 role on occasion. While Nusa is thought to be generating interest from the Reds, should he ignite interest through his performances at the World Cup this summer, his price tag could rise even further. Securing his signature could prove tricky. He is said to have drawn interest from Arsenal, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham, Milan, Napoli, and Atletico Madrid. Doubts raised over £85 million man The interest in Noosa could stem from the surprising news that the Reds may have cooled on a reported long-term target. While Noosa's RB Leipzig teammate, Jan Diomande, has been the name on the lips of Liverpool fans when it comes to new signings for some time, the club have reportedly distanced themselves from a swoop for the winger. According to the Daily Mail journalist Louis Steele, the Reds are just not that impressed with the 19-year-old's output. The reporter has said, Liverpool are just a bit unsure whether to trigger an £85 million-ish fee for a player who in the grand scheme of things is relatively unproven. His numbers aren't that good. They're not like jump-off-the-screen good. Diomande, an Ivory Coast international, has 13 goals and 9 assists in 35 games for the Bundesliga side this season. Yet his steep price tag, combined with his age and the fact that Liverpool will be looking for a sure thing when it comes to recruiting Salah's replacement, means an expected transfer could actually be wide of the mark. Red Bull chief Oliver Mintzlaff has also insisted that only a huge fee could force his team to release Diomande, making any deal difficult to pull off. I can say, if I were sporting director, I wouldn't sell this young player, who hasn't even completed a full season with us, he told Sky Germany, no matter what price is being asked. I believe he's a player who can still develop further because he's still very young, and he can certainly become more expensive. In another news, Ollie Watkins delivers brutal Liverpool truth after running them ragged again. Ollie Watkins scored twice as Aston Villa beat Liverpool 4-2 on Friday and secured Champions League qualification, something which Arne Slot's side are still chasing. Ollie Watkins has given a damning assessment of Liverpool and their disjointed defence after scoring another 2 goals against the faltering Premier League champions. Watkins, 30, scored Aston Villa's second and third goals as they beat Liverpool 4-2 on Friday night. Only Harry Kane and Andy Cole have scored more Premier League goals against Liverpool than Watkins, who has 8. The England international spoke post-match about how he was able to expose Arne Slot's side, as Villa leapfrogged them into 4th place and secured Champions League football for next season.
Liverpool play a high line and don't play offside, so they're disjointed at the back and feel like there's a lot of space for me to run into, Watkins told Sky Sports. No disrespect to them, the centre-backs are world-class, but I spot space and opportunities. I like to run in behind. Just before the goal, I was disappointed because I went offside. They play such a high line. I shouldn't be offside in that position, but to grab that goal a minute later, me and Morgan have a great connection. Buzzing Pow missed that. I knew I wasn't offside. It's horrible when it goes to VAR, you never know, but you can't ask for anything more as a striker with a little tap in there. In contrast, it was another miserable night for Slot. Liverpool will finish the season with 9 defeats from their 19 away games in the league, conceding 33 goals. In general, teams struggle more away from home, but for a top team like us, it's far too many losses and dropped points, Slot admitted. That hugely has to do with the way we concede is far too easy in general. We have chances, but we've not been as clinical in fishing them this season as we were last season. It doesn't help that Isak has hardly played for us or that Hugo Ekitike has been unavailable. It is what it is. Next week, Brentford is where our focus is. Liverpool will be handed a place in the Champions League if Bournemouth lose at home to Manchester City next Tuesday, otherwise it'll go down to the final day. In another news, Andy Robertson's brutal take on Liverpool's defeat at Aston Villa shows his true character. Liverpool suffered a damaging 4-2 defeat to Aston Villa, with departing icon Andy Robertson delivering a scathing assessment of his teammates as the Reds' Champions League qualification hangs in the balance. Andy Robertson has slammed the Reds' performance following their 12th Premier League defeat, a 4-2 loss against Aston Villa.
The Scotland international paid tribute to the travelling Anfield faithful, but pulled no punches on the display, despite being an unused substitute in his final away fixture for the club. The dismal season plunged to fresh lows on Friday evening as Unai Emery's outfit sealed Champions League qualification at Liverpool's expense. It leaves the Reds requiring Bournemouth and Brighton to falter in their penultimate league fixtures for the final day clash with Brentford to be meaningless, but as things stand, Liverpool sit merely 4 points clear in the last spot for Europe's premier competition. A brace from Ollie Watkins alongside strikes from Morgan Rogers and John McGinn condemned Liverpool to matching their worst Premier League tally for 11 years with 12 losses. Virgil van Dijk netted twice for the Reds, but his second proved nothing more than a consolation. Robertson shared an image on Instagram expressing his gratitude to the away fans. However, in his message, he conceded that the display epitomized their disappointing Premier League title defence. He said, "A performance which sums up our season, a long way short of the levels of this club and what you rightly expect of us. But I can only thank you for the last 9 years of travelling up and down the country and all over the world, packing out away ends wherever we go. We'll see you next week for one last time." Liverpool face Brentford on the final day of the season with Arne Slot and Jordan Henderson poised for Anfield homecomings, while club icons Mohamed Salah and Andy Robertson prepare to bring the curtain down on their time with the Reds. Yet with Champions League qualification hanging in the balance, the heat on Arne Slot has shown no sign of letting up following the 4-2 drubbing at Villa Park. The Dutchman was compelled to concede that their dismal run of results has shattered supporters' belief. He said, "It's damaging because we needed either a win or maybe 2 draws would have been enough as well. But now we know one thing for sure, we need a win next week if we have to do it ourselves. As we know, the other teams of course need to pick up points as well for us to need a win. That's really damaging that we were not able to get a result, let alone a win here today. There were parts in the game where I felt a result could have gone our way, but I think people are mainly focused on the period after the 2-1 where we couldn't find any momentum anymore, and we conceded 2 other goals. That was the most difficult period in the game. But after the 2-1 we crumbled and we struggled. In the end we came back to 4-2, so the players did not give up, but we struggled to control their pace, intensity and quality." In another news, teammates feel sorry for Liverpool star's brutal situation. One star has his teammates feeling sorry for him in a brutal situation. Liverpool have a major decision to make. Liverpool have several massive decisions to make this coming summer, but perhaps none of them carry the same weight as the one with Harvey Elliott. The 23-year-old has essentially lost a season of his career, and that comes on the back of barely playing last season either. But this was supposed to be a breakout year for him as he joined Aston Villa on loan. A clause in the deal ruined things, however. Villa would need to buy Elliott permanently if he played 10 Premier League games. Unai Emery quickly decided the player wasn't quite what he wanted, and thus couldn't afford to play him 10 times. Elliott has essentially been frozen out for the campaign. He's played just 110 Premier League minutes across this season, and it's unlikely that he'll get more in Villa's final league game. The Athletic's report on the situation sums it up nicely. They report that Elliott's Villa teammates feel sorry for him, as he's been great around the training ground and never let up his work ethic, even if he knew full well it wouldn't lead anywhere. And so Elliott will return to Liverpool this summer. He'll do so without any clear idea of what his future will be, and the Reds must decide whether to sell him or not. But doing so would be on the back of a disastrous season that saw Elliott's value absolutely tank. Importantly, he rejoins a Liverpool team that hasn't performed, one that, in theory, he could force his way into if he were afforded the opportunities. It's going to be a difficult way back for Elliott, but it's far from impossible that he gets on track again. Harvey Elliott, situation summary. Aston Villa performance and stats. As of the 15th of May 2026, Harvey Elliott is enduring what has been described as the most disastrous deal of the season, following a failed loan move to Aston Villa. After joining from Liverpool last summer, the 23-year-old has been frozen out by Unai Emery, managing only 9 appearances and 284 minutes of action. His Premier League contributions are currently blank, with 0 goals and assists and a low average FOTMOB rating of 6.37. His situation is complicated by a unique transfer clause. Villa were only obligated to make the move permanent if Elliott reached 10 appearances. By leaving him on the bench for most of the campaign, including a brutal snub for the match against Nottingham Forest on 7 May, Villa look set to avoid that obligation. Future and return to Liverpool. Arne Slot confirmed on the 14th of May that Elliott will be with us at the start of next season. Slot admitted the loan didn't work out as we wanted, noting that the player had featured more regularly at Anfield the previous year. With Liverpool's midfield depth being tested and the club planning a summer overhaul, Elliott is expected to return to the squad for pre-season training, though he remains ineligible to face Villa in tonight's fixture. International standing. Due to his lack of playing time, Elliott has fallen out of contention for Thomas Tuchel's England squad. He is not expected to be included in the final 26-man roster for the 2026 World Cup this June, having been largely overlooked during the qualifying campaign. That's all for today's Liverpool update. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any breaking news. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should Liverpool back Slot or make a change? See you in the next one.